I was talking to Deirdre this morning, who said that most of you are pretty new to Switzerland. And I think there's 1 or 2 people that have been here as long as 4 years. So whether you've been here 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years, or more, what we're going to look at is what can you do to make your experience here in Switzerland as positive for you as possible. And that means getting more of what you want more often with less hassle. And to do this, I want to start with a story. And the story I want to tell you is how I became a communication coach. People ask me, wow, interesting profession, Amy. What made you choose that? And this is one of those things where, well, no, it really kind of chose me. Because I have been picking fights since I was 6 years old. It was really cute for a long time. And then imagine I'm now 15 years old and I start my first part-time job. And I discover I have a jerk for a boss. And I call my older sister up, Pat. And Pat is the one who actually designed this model of predator-prey partner. And back then, it hadn't been even born yet. So I said, Pat, you're not going to believe it. I got another jerk for a boss. She said, oh, that's terrible, Amy. And then the next job, and the next job, and the next job, same thing. And every time she'd say, you have the worst luck. Now fast forward another couple of years. I'm in my mid-20s. And same thing happens. I call her up. I said, Pat, guess what? She said, let me think. Another difficult boss? Yeah! And so at some point, my sister helped me to realize that maybe I was bringing something to these relationships to cause this conflict. The problem was I didn't know what I was doing wrong, and I didn't know how to fix it. The good news for me is that I had the motivation to figure it out. So I read books, I took classes, I did therapy, and at some point, my communication skills improved. And so the story I want to tell you is about my epiphany, the moment when I realized I had gone to the next level. And before I tell you the epiphany story, I want to give you some definitions. I'm going to talk about power. Now, I'm talking about your personal power. So say you've got a director of a company who has high positional power. They might have low personal power by the way he or she behaves. By contrast, you've got a receptionist or secretary who tends to have low positional power. They could have high personal power by the way he or she behaves. So what we're going to be looking at here is your personal power. Whether you're in the grocery store talking to your child's teacher or your in-laws are visiting. Particularly important for the in-laws. And the other terminology are predator, prey, partner. The predator is a person, and this is the shorthand version, a person who's not afraid of conflict, who tends to show too much respect for herself and not enough for others. Anna, you got it? She's like, I sat in the front and everything. And then by contrast, you've got the prey, who's usually a really nice person, who tends to show too much respect for others and not enough for themselves. Patience, is that? Yeah. And patience is thinking, I might have just wasted the next hour of my life. Well, in between the two is the partner. And the partner is magical because it's a blend of the competence behaviors, the effective competence behaviors of the predator, the effective likable behaviors of the prey. And it works because the partner knows for the communication to be effective, they've got to show respect for the other and for themselves simultaneously. Make sense so far? Okay. So now, I started my own business. I've been here, I think maybe Sarah mentioned, I've been here since '95. Started my own business in 2000. In 2001, I was fresh and new and energized, and a colleague invited me to a networking event. She said, Amy, it starts at 6 o'clock. I'm going to get there at 6:30. Her name was Judy. I said, okay, great, Judy. I'll probably get there at 6 o'clock. I'll see you when you get there at 6:30. Okay. The day of the networking event comes around. I look at my watch and decide, oh, I just want to get that last project done. I'll just get there at 6:30 when Judy shows up. So I walk into the event. I see Judy. I say, hey, Judy, how you doing? She said, Amy, I thought you were going to be here at 6 o'clock. I told Francine you'd be here at 6 o'clock. And I said, who's Francine? She said, Francine's this 85-year-old woman who's not very comfortable in social situations, and I told her you could spend the first half hour with her. Yeah, oops. So I'm thinking, I wasn't feeling terribly guilty because I couldn't have known. And Judy had good intentions, so it wasn't her fault, right? Well, she said, well, come on in. I'll introduce you to Francine. I said, okay, great. And I walk over to introduce myself, and I see this very statuesque woman of 85, the big beehive hairdo. You know what I mean? And then a woman standing on either side of her. And I said, Mom, I'll be home soon. And I walk up to her to introduce myself, and she says, where have you been? I have been waiting for you for over 30 minutes. I know. I'm thinking, girlfriend, you're messing with the wrong short person. I was really shocked. So then, this is my fantasy response to her. Sweetheart, if you haven't gotten your act together by the time you're your age, nothing I can do for you. And some of you might actually be thinking, oh, yeah. And then others you're thinking, oh, no way, that's horrible. So the good news was that I resisted. One, because I didn't want to be disrespectful to the stranger, and two, very selfishly, I was just starting my business, so I didn't want to damage my reputation before it was born, right? And we all know the English-speaking community in Switzerland is pretty small. So then I'm thinking, do I have to go pray? I've got a prop for that. Francine, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I promise I'll never. Though, for those of you who know me, and those of you who are just meeting me today, I'm thinking you could probably guess my ego was never going to let me do that. So now I'm feeling a bit stuck. And the whole story that I'm telling you, I swear, happened like in 3 seconds in my brain. And so all of a sudden I had this thought, something I remembered from improvisational theater. For the communication to be effective, the power dynamic has to be equalized. I said, okay, right. Respect for other, respect for me, right? So I coached myself. I said, all right, Amy, still body, direct eye contact, which are the competence behaviors. Warm smile, likability. Not Disney smile, you know. And without any sarcasm in my voice, I said, Francine, if I'd known you were waiting for me, it would have been a pleasure to spend the time with you. It's nice to meet you. And ladies, this woman melted like an ice cream cone in Texas in August. Some of you know what I'm talking about, right? And that is why I call it my epiphany, because I couldn't believe that I was able to change my behaviors. One, be aware that there was this invisible power game, which I'll tell you more about. I could see it. I could put my ego to the side and then make a choice to get a different outcome. And so that's what I will be sharing with you today, to help you to see what might your trigger be. What is your default when you're under pressure or threat? Do you go predator or do you go prey? And it may differ. Well, and then some of you who really don't, like my assistant Dipna, who's an amazing woman, is one of the very, very, very few people I know in the whole world, even when she's under pressure or stress, stays in partner. Amazing. The rest of us, it might not be. Yeah, I've got one woman going, nah, not me. So you're going to want to know what your default is, and it may change. You may be one way with your children, another way with your mother-in-law. Something to think about. And what I'm going to have you do is consider the behaviors of the opposing sides to help balance you and keep you in partner no matter what's going on. And we'll look at the external behaviors and the internal partner mindset to help you step more easily into that place. I'm also going to encourage you to teach these skills to other people. Who in the room has children? Fantastic. Well, if you don't have kids, get a hold of a kid. Because I am convinced that if children understood how to step out of predator or pray and into partner, there'd be a lot less of the bullying that goes on in schools. Now I'd like to talk about one of the pillars of this model, which is around energy. And what we know, this is a, you know, I told you a minute ago that I come from a big family, 7 kids. 3 of us are communication coaches. My parents get more free coaching than they want in a lifetime. And there's a Halloween weekend I still remember, which was devastating for my mother. Now, one of those coaches is my brother Kevin, and he came up with this scale of energy. Bad life, we've probably known somebody like that. Bad day, we've all been there. In the neutral in the business world, I call it the minimum professional standard. Just enough to get the job done without getting fired. And then there's the zone, which is the zone of opportunity. This is where you can most positively influence other people.